Okay, so let's talk about PCOS. For so many people, these new medications like tirzepatide have been, a complete revolution. It's been incredible. But what do you do when that amazing progress just stops? Like, it grinds to a halt. Well, we're going to get into that because there's a reason it happens, and even better, there's a really clear strategy to bust right through it.
So this is really the big question we're digging into. What if these amazing treatments, these total game changers, have a kind of hidden flaw? And what if there's a pretty simple solution? Look, these drugs are incredibly powerful, no doubt, but they're not always the whole story. We're going to uncover exactly why things can stall out and then lay out the specific tools you can use to get moving again.
All right, Section 1, the PCOS and insulin cycle. To really get a handle on this, we've got to go back to basics. You can't fix a problem if you don't understand what's really driving it, right? And for PCOS, it pretty much all boils down to one core issue.
And that core issue, it's insulin resistance. So what does that even mean? Well, think of it like this. Your cells, they have these little doors that insulin is supposed to unlock to let sugar in for energy. With insulin resistance, it's like the locks get rusty. The key doesn't work so well. So what does your body do? It just makes more and more keys. It screams, pumping out way more insulin to try and force those doors open. And that state of constantly high insulin, that's really what kicks off all the chaos with PCOS.
And this is where it gets really tricky. It's a vicious cycle. All that extra insulin floating around, it sends a direct signal to the ovaries telling them, hey, make more androgens, hormones like testosterone. But here's the real kicker. Those high androgens then turn right back around and make your cells even more resistant to insulin. See the loop? Each problem feeds the other one. It's this feedback cycle that can feel totally impossible to break.
Section 2 is all about the GLP-1 game changer. So how on earth do you break a cycle like that? You can't just nibble at the edges. You need something that goes right for the throat of the problem, right at the source. And that, my friends, is where these new GLP-1 medications are making such a huge difference.
So let's look at how a drug like tirzepatide actually works. The reason it's so powerful is that it's what they call a dual agonist. Just think of it like this. It's not just one key for one lock. It's a master key that works on two different metabolic pathways, GLP-1 and GIP. By hitting both of these, it can launch a multi-front attack on that vicious cycle. It crushes insulin resistance, which then dials down that signal telling the ovaries to overproduce androgens. It's a really elegant solution. And look, this isn't just theory. The real-world results are, well, they're stunning. When you look at actual patients, the changes are dramatic. The number of people dealing with irregular cycles, it just plummets. We're talking from around 85% down to about 32%. And ovarian cysts, the number of patients with them is cut by more than half. This is a massive, fundamental shift in the biology of the condition.
And it's not just about what's happening on the inside either. These internal changes lead to a really powerful shift you can see on the outside. And it all comes down to this one number, over 90%.
What is that 90%? That's the percentage of patients with PCOS on tirzepatide who lose at least 10% of their body weight within about 10 months. That is a huge win for metabolic health. It's life-changing. But, and this is a big but, even with all this incredible success, a new challenge often pops up.
All right, Section 3, the 8-month roadblock. This is the twist in the story, isn't it? The dreaded plateau. You feel like you're doing everything right. The medication is clearly working wonders. And then, all of a sudden, nothing. The scale just stops moving. Maybe some of those nagging symptoms are still hanging around. It is so frustrating.
And this timeline, it's a super common story. The first few months are just amazing. You see incredible progress. You feel so hopeful. But then, somewhere around that 8 or 9 month mark, bam, you hit a wall. Everything just stalls out. And man, that can be unbelievably disheartening.
So this brings up the million-dollar question, right? If this medicine is so good, if it's hitting the root cause so perfectly, why does it suddenly feel like it stopped working? The answer is really interesting. It's not that the drug failed, it's that our bodies, well, they have a kind of hormonal memory.
The scientific term for this is hormonal inertia. Remember that vicious cycle we talked about, how high insulin leads to high androgens, and high androgens lead to more insulin resistance? Well, it's a two-way street. The medication is absolutely brilliant at shutting down one side of that street. It stops the high insulin from cranking out androgens. But the other lane of traffic, the part where those lingering androgens are still driving insulin resistance, that one still has a lot of momentum.
And this is really the key to understanding the stall.
Here's an analogy. Imagine your house is flooding, and tirzepatide comes in and shuts off the main water valve. Fantastic, right? The massive gush of water is stopped, but you've still got puddles everywhere. Your body's hormonal patterns are kind of like that. They're deeply ingrained. So even with that main insulin driver shut off, you still have these puddles of high androgens hanging around. And those puddles are still fueling insulin resistance, just from the other direction. This creates a roadblock that even a powerful medication can struggle to get past all by itself.
Okay, enough about the problem. Let's talk about the solution. Section 4, breaking through with your 4-part supplement stack. So to get past this hormonal inertia, to clean up those puddles, we need to bring in some backup. We need tools that work with the medication to target all those leftover issues. It's time to build the ultimate supplement stack.
We're going to break down 4 key evidence-based tools. Think of each one as targeting a very specific piece of the PCOS puzzle. But when you put them all together, that's when you get a really powerful, synergistic strategy to help you smash right through that stall.
First up, Myo-inositol. This is probably the most well-studied supplement for PCOS out there, and it's awesome. Remember how we said insulin resistance makes your cells kind of deaf to insulin's message? Well, Myo-inositol is like a hearing aid for your cells. It helps those receptors listen to insulin way more effectively. So it's giving a direct boost to the exact same system your medication is already helping.
Okay, next on the list, Berberine. People sometimes call this nature's metformin for a reason. It works by flipping a master metabolic switch inside your cells called AMPK. When you turn that switch on, it basically tells your whole body to get way more efficient with energy. The result? It helps lower both your fasting glucose and your insulin. It's just another powerful layer of support for improving that core insulin sensitivity.
Tool number 3 is N-acetylcysteine, or NAC. And NAC is a fantastic multitasker. It really fights on 2 different fronts. On one hand, yes, it's an insulin sensitizer, but it's also a super powerful antioxidant. It helps to cool down all that chronic, low-grade inflammation that goes hand in hand with PCOS. And that 1-2 punch is what helps it lower testosterone and just generally support your metabolic health.
And our 4th and final tool, this one goes right after those puddles of androgens we were talking about, and it's spearmint tea. I know, it sounds simple, but it's surprisingly effective. The research shows that just 2 cups a day can have a gentle anti-androgenic effect. It's a great way to help nudge down those stubborn testosterone levels that are keeping that hormonal inertia going. Now, this is probably the most important point of all. The goal here is synergy. This is absolutely not about replacing your medication. It's about working with it. Think of these supplements as the support crew for your main therapy. They come in, close the gaps, address those leftover hormonal issues, and help you smash through that plateau so you can get back to making progress.
And what's so cool is that this entire field is just moving at light speed. You know, tirzepatide is the game changer of today for sure, but right around the corner we've got things like retatrutide being investigated. It's a triple agonist. It hits 3 different receptors. The early trials are showing even more insane weight loss and metabolic benefits. It just shows you that the future is going to be packed with even more powerful tools.
So what does this all mean? It really leaves you with a hopeful final thought, doesn't it? We're shifting away from just, managing symptoms. We are now truly targeting the deep, root metabolic causes of conditions like PCOS. And as our understanding gets better and our science gets more precise, it just empowers us to take more and more control of our own health. The future for this is looking really, really bright.